All right. Hope everyone's doing well. Good to see everyone. Fire away whenever.
The, the tackle situation, just how much, I know I think I asked you something along this line last week, but how much does, just the uncertainty at those spots, just, is it, hampering what this overall offense can do?
Yeah, I mean they're important positions, right? I mean I think that's represented when you look across the league and how those guys are paid and the value put on those spots. We have a group of guys now that we're developing that we feel like can go out and execute for us. Obviously, you hate to see injuries happen, especially with like we said last week, Dwan's still a young player developing in this league. So to feel like we're trying, we're breaking through with him and getting him into a point, and then have an injury happen, you hate to see it. We have confidence in those other guys. We look forward to hopefully getting some guys healthy as the season progresses. But look, it's a group effort up front. It's a group effort with the tight ends and the backs to help. And we talked about it last week in the passing game to mitigate a really good rush like Green Bay had. It's a hard thing to just put on one position group or one spot. Like, you got to get open, got to play on time, got to get yourself in the right protection. So, we want to put a plan together to help all those guys. And, we do have confidence in the tackles that we're playing with.
We see you chipping a lot with the running backs, the tight ends. The passing game has already struggled as it is, but how much does it take away from the passing game when you do have one or two guys who are chipping or double teaming before they even go out to run a route?
Yeah, you look across the league, guys have success throwing the ball and chip. You don't want to use any of those crutches to say that we're limiting ourselves there. Like, there are great pass rushers in this league. We're going to play against another one this week, and like, if you look at our schedule, we play against a handful of the very best across the NFL. So it's a commonality in the NFL to see guys helping on the perimeter, just with how talented some of those guys are. So, us as coaches have to do a better job of finding ways to get our guys open and be efficient in the passing game while also starting with the protection.
How Joe has done, and what more do you need to see from him?
Yeah, just got to get him comfortable. Probably felt comfortable early a couple weeks ago. Haven't been able to get back into rhythm. Again, our job as coaches is to get him feeling comfortable and confident, and we've been working at that. He's not a guy that gets real up and down, so you wouldn't sense any of that. But just in the course of a game, allowing him to feel confident that he can rip it, and really that's our job as a coaching staff to make sure that we get him there.
We was talking yesterday about not forcing the ball and how important that is. So how do you find that balance? You talk about ripping the ball between, hey, I'm going to check it down versus take a
and that's what I mean by it's our job as coaches. Like, there's going to be premier looks where we say, hey, this is what we got it dialed up for. This is what we have it designed for. These are the times to take it, and then here are the times where, hey, we maybe didn't design it for this coverage. Here's your outlet, or here's the time to be smart, or the pocket's breaking down and it's a late play decision. Like, those are built in. I think it's during the week, the understanding of, hey, this is exactly what we're trying to attack. When we get this look, let's attack it. And that's why it falls on us as coaches to make sure we get that done.
You feel there were a couple there last week?
There's always a couple there. You know what I mean? Like, every week you're going to look back and say, shoot, we had this one, we had that. Joe's at a point in his career, you have great conversations about what he's seeing, what he's feeling. So there's always a why. It's just, continuing to get people to understand. And every week you play like, God, I wish we would have had that one. And then, I think about the extended play to Harold in week one, like, shouldn't have had that one, but found it, So there is a give and take, but just, again, got to get him comfortable and do, my job as a coach to make sure that during the week he's getting to that point.
Quinshon and how he's coming along, and he's a 38-yard run this past week, the 31-yard run the week before. Like, how's he doing with the workload and everything?
Yeah, seems to be doing okay. Really pleased with how he's just put his head down and worked as he's gotten back in the swing of things. Obviously, I mean, it feels like he's been here a lot longer, but it's a couple weeks, 3 weeks, maybe less. So to say like where he is today and where he was when he first got here, where he'll be in 3 weeks, I think, optimistic about how he's prepping and how he's putting himself in position to have success. Obviously he was able to find yards there, especially in the second half of the game last week when we needed it, and, excited about where he's at as a young player.
The Lions are the second highest scoring team in the league, 90 points the last 2 games. Does a team like that influence your offensive game plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. They've been a fun offense to watch for years now. They have playmakers all over the field. They do a great job of getting the ball in those guys' hands and allowing them to be really good players. I think offensively, you're conscious of what's going on the other side, but we know regardless of who we're playing offensively, like we still have to execute and do our job. We have a tremendous amount of trust in our defense, obviously, but really the focus still holds on us, less about, hey, we got to keep up or we got to be in a track meet. We just are more focused on doing our part and making sure that we can have success playing and play out. And you hope if you do those things, the results will come.
See it starting to come, or do you believe that it will come soon between Joe and Jerry, which we
I
talked
do.
about?
Yeah, I do. I think we're close there. Again, there's a lot of parts of the offense that, allow some of that to happen. And, putting Jerry in position to make sure that we're giving him the best opportunities to get open and finish some things. And yeah, we've had some chances there that maybe we were just a little bit off. We've had some chances maybe we've missed. We've had some looks that we've liked that maybe just haven't connected. So just continue to find ways to get him going and get the ball in his hands.
Would you like to get him a touch or two early? I know you can't force it, but to kind of get him into the flow and rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, within the structure, there's always a plan there. I think good players like Jerry is, like you get him going early, usually reap the benefit. So definitely want to find ways to continue to move him around and get him, the best looks possible.
What makes that Lions defense so good at taking the ball away?
Yeah, well, they have a couple like playmakers at all the levels, right? I mean, like the pass rush with Hutch kind of creates the issue in the pocket. Branch is all over the field. He plays on the edge, plays at linebacker, plays at safety, punches it out. Really good coverage player, makes plays on the ball that way. 31 had, was it 8 interceptions a year ago? Or, and he plays the middle of the field probably as well as anybody, in the league, ultra aggressive. And, they have playmakers that are looking to get the ball out. They do a great job fundamentally as a group of punching and ripping at the ball. Like you watch Anzalone run down, constantly going after the football. So it's clearly coached how they attack the ball. They play an aggressive style where they're going to, challenge you and swarm it and be aggressive and play lower and do things to try to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable. And then they always have 11 seem to be chasing the ball. And when you do that, when the ball comes out, usually you recover it. So definitely have our work cut out for us there.
Yesterday, when I asked Flacco a general question about just the rookie's contribution, and he ended up singling out Harold Fannin. Since you were a tight end coach here last year, what do you think of his progress? And is there anything unusual going on there? Or is he just off to a good start?
He's off to a good start. And he was off to a good start when he first got here, right? I think Harold's got a really good way about him, approaches it the right way, comes to work, puts himself in position to have success. Some guys have knacks of getting open and finding ways to do it. And hopefully we can continue to, having him put himself in position to do that for us. But it really starts with just he's a very humble kid that came in with his head down and put himself in position to move around and learn the offense and understand what we're asking him to do. And, him and Joe have had a nice connection here through the early part.
To know that continuity in the offensive line, what kind of role do Ethan and Joel and Wyatt play in that, especially because not only they're veteran status, but like they're been together as a unit for a while?
Yeah, I mean, those three have played together a lot. I think the communication with them is pretty seamless. Cornelius is a vet who's played a lot of football, so that transition's easy. And then, with Leviston, who's a young kid, I think the confidence that Joel can give those guys, the confidence that Wyatt can give those guys by playing next to him, communicating, they know the offense in and out. So they're able to kind of breathe some confidence into those young players just because they can communicate so much easier. And then as you build a continuity with that group, you hope it becomes seamless, right? Like you look at lines that can play together if they stay healthy or if they're together for a long time. Usually that group of 5 can kind of feel each other in a way that passing off games, communicating different looks, that becomes very seamless for them.
Huntington appears to be such a weapon. Huntington.
Yeah.
Is there a pathway to him being used beyond short yardage?
Yeah, I think, he's playing for us on 3 faces right now, so it's just we'll take him where we can get him. You got to fight Jock a little bit every day to get him over with us, but he's done a great job. I think he learns it well. I think he has a good skill set. Really an exciting young player for us, and hopefully there's continued use, because he does, everything we've asked of him has done a nice job with.
KT Livingston, who, from what I saw, graded out pretty well in run blocking last week. I mean, I know you can't necessarily platoon or alternate. I guess you could alternate your tackles,
Right.
but can you find a way to take advantage of the fact that he is a really good run blocker, even if he doesn't get to start?
Yeah, I think, look, we use guys in kind of Y roles. There's ways to put your best players on the field. So I think like any position, we try to find what our guys can do best and allow them to do that. And, KT's done that for us so far. And he's again, we have this young group of players that are fun to work with, and he falls into that category, even though he's only been here for a short time.
Sampson, obviously, he was so involved week
Yeah.
one when Quinshon wasn't here. Not as involved the last 2 weeks. Is that more of a week-to-week thing, or do you just need to see something out of him to get him on the field a little more?
Yeah, week to week thing. Dylan's done everything we've asked. We trust him. We know what he can do for us. Again, that would fall under, my lens of let's get our best guys in certain spots, and we certainly feel like Dylan can do some stuff to help us.